Evaluating functions, algebra 2 trigonometry regions. What is the range of the function f of x equals 2x plus 3 when the domain is -1, -3, and +1? So I've mentioned this f of x notation before. This is the function notation. This is basically, you could think of it as y, but basically when I want to have an input in here, it's f of input, I think is a good way of thinking about it. F of input, and not just f of x, because whatever I have in between these parentheses, I'm going to input for x. And so I see that I have f of x here. But if I were to change it to, f of, say, one of these numbers, like f of -3, well, I no longer have an x in here, which means that I no longer have an x in here. So we talk about how domain is your x values, and so these are your input values. And they basically want to know what are the output values. They want the range. They want the y values. So when you plug in these x values, what are the y values you get? But this notation is a little bit new for us. And so basically, you plug these numbers into f, we call it. It's almost like I'm naming this equation. This equation has a name. We're calling it f. And when I plug things into it, I plug them in for the x. X is my input spot. And so if I want to know what f of -3 is, I replace my x with -3, and then I evaluate. That would be -6 plus 3 equals -3. So f of -3 is -3. So we're looking for something with -3. It's probably this. Well, how about plugging in -1 and 1? So f of -1 would be 2 times -1 plus 3. So I mean, remember what is happening. What's happening to x in this equation? This is 2 times x plus 3. This is 2 times your input value plus 3. So double your input value plus 3. And so I'm plugging in -1. And it's good that I'm using parentheses here, because you got a substitution, you need those parentheses. So this would be -2 plus 3 is 1. So for +1. There we go. And how about if I plug in +1? Well, double that +1 and add 3 is 2 plus 3 is 5. And so there's my other value right there. So the answer is definitely C. All right, how about this one? F of 3. So f of x, what's happening to x? Well, whatever my input is, I'm doing my input raised to an exponent of the negation of my input minus my input raised to 0 plus 2 raised to the input. So you're plugging 3 in several spots. So f of 3, as we said, is 3 raised to the -3 minus 3 raised to the 0 plus 2 raised to the 3rd. And we haven't really gotten much into negative exponents yet. That's actually a whole chapter we're going to deal with. But for now, just type it into your calculator and accept what it says. But we'll explain why. And if you do math enter, enter, it's going to convert it to a fraction of 1/27. So just use your calculator for it for now, but we're going to have a whole chapter on what that means. And anything raised to the 0 power is actually 1. And if you type that in, you do get that. If you type in 3 raised to the 0, it will tell you that it's just simply 1. And then lastly is 2 raised to the 3rd, which maybe you do know that one is 8. And so now we're looking at plus 8. And so we have 1/27 minus 1 plus 8. What they're looking for is actually an answer of 7 and 1/27. The -1 plus 8 is the 7 and 1/27. So that's what they're looking for here. I actually don't really like that. I would prefer an answer of the whole thing as an improper fraction. Like take a look at this. 1 divided by 27th, and then minus 1 plus 8, and let's see what this does for us and convert it. Math, enter, enter. So I would prefer the answer of 190 over 27. So it's 190 over 27. And on a test or something like that, that's the kind of answer I would be looking for, type of stuff. We never simplify our fractions like this, but that's what the question wanted. Let's do one more. All right, so sometimes you're asked to input not a number, but an expression. So what we did for this is we replaced all of our x values, all of our input placeholders, with our input of 3. Well, I'm going to do the same thing here. That f of x Again, a good way to rewrite this sometimes is think of it as this. Instead of f of x, think of it as f of my input. So f of in equals your input plus 3 divided by your input minus 1. And so if I plug in an a plus 1, that's going to stand for my input. My x's are going to be gone, and they're going to be replaced by my input value of a plus 1. And so f of a plus 1 goes in my input spot would be a plus 1 plus 3, your input plus 3, divided by your input a plus 1 minus 1. And we could simplify this to be a plus 4 over a. That's it. So sometimes you're plugging in a simple number like -1, 1, or 3. Sometimes you're plugging in entire expressions and evaluating it from there. All right, so we'll practice more of this in class. See ya.